Hey everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of Pitch Us. My name is Tim Cooley. I am the author of the Pitch Deck book. Super excited to have Amy, Carla, and Michelle here to talk about RV2EZ. So Michelle, why don't you share your screen and then pitch us?
All right. Hello, Tim. Thank you so much for inviting us here today. My name is Michelle Callahan. I'm the CEO of RV2EZ. Amy and Carla are my co-founders, and they're absolutely amazing. And so with that being said, let's get started and tell you a little bit about our business. So RV2EZ started because I decided I wanted to live in an RV full time after the pandemic. And Amy, who has lived in an RV full time in the past, said, yeah, plan a trip first. And I'm really glad that she did, because I went to plan a trip and about 2 hours into it, almost walked away from doing that entirely. Thought about it for a couple hours, talked with Amy again, and said, you know what? Instead of walking away from living the RV dream, I'm going to fix the problems out there with trip planning. And RV2EZ was born. So our goal is to make RV trip planning as easy and convenient as booking a hotel. So a lot of people have asked us, why now? Why are you doing this now? Besides the fact that I experienced trip planning, through all of our research, we found a ton more information. So 46 million RV trips are expected to be planned over the next 12 months. We have 80% of new RVers are millennials and Gen Z. So it's no longer the retired crowd going south for the winter in their RVs. And people right now are currently using, on average, 4 to 6 different types of resources to plan one trip. It might be an app, a website, a paper map that people are still using. Now, over 1 million people currently live in RVs full time, and that is growing by the day. And those full timers need access to be able to plan trips a lot easier than they are today. So the industry will continue to grow as people look for alternatives due to more work from home anywhere opportunities. And we want to be at the forefront of that to make it easier for people to live this lifestyle. So the problems, what's out there and what's not working? Well, when it comes to trip planning, it is extremely hard to research and find the best safe route, because that's where you have to start. If I'm going from Minnesota to Denver, Colorado, I need to know what roads are RV safe. Then once I figure that out, how far do I want to drive each day, and what stops do I want to make along the way? There is not a great app out there that helps you figure that out. You have to, I'll tell you, I have actually laid out a paper map and measured to find my 300-mile stop. Even through Google, it sends you all over the place. So that's number one. Number two, database. So when it comes to the types of parking that's available out there, they're everywhere. So we have Cracker Barrels and Walmarts that allow you to park. There are BLM land and Army Corps of Engineer land that you have to go to a different website to find. Then you have state national parks that you have to go to all different websites. We want to have the most complete database available so that no matter what type of parking space you're looking for, it's going to be on our app. And then the last one is no RV safe GPS. So this goes again into that trip planning part. But when it comes to RVs, there are some things that we have to be careful of. Bridge sizes, of course, road sizes, but also if you have propane on board, did you know you can't go through a tunnel? Like that is crazy. And so we need to make sure that we're not routing people through there. And right now, there currently is not a great RV GPS out there. So what does that mean? Well, RV2EZ's vision is, and it's kind of hard to see on the screen, but planning a trip, you'll be able to enter your start location, your ending location, and then how many miles per day that you want to drive. And what's great is the app is going to then show you your whole trip, and it's going to have plot points along the way, as you can see on the screen there. Now, with each plot point, when you zoom into it, say I chose this one in the middle here, it would zoom up and show you all of the parking spaces available within a 5-mile radius of that particular point. And from there, you can filter, then pick where you want to stay, and then, of course, move on to making the reservations. So what drives us? When I was researching, I went out there and bought all the apps because I was like, there's got to be somebody out there who's already doing this. Well, RV Life Pro and The Dirt are our two biggest competitors, and they are great apps. Don't get me wrong. They're just not doing what we want to do. And so they really focused on building a community of camping and campers, and it's great. They've done a great job of building that. But some of the reviews that they're seeing are saying, hey, the GPS doesn't work great. The trip planning is really limited. And so we really focused on that side of it for launch. Customer acquisition. Everybody says, well, how are you going to get your customers? Well, on our traveler side of the app, we are going to do partners, referrals, social media marketers, and of course, influencers who are already out there living this life to spread the word about the RV2EZ app. Once we get that traveler side up and running, then we are going to add an RV park side to our app and website. And what that's going to do is think apartments.com. We want to make sure, first off, every single parking space is going to have a free listing with us with limited information. But RV parks will have the opportunity to upgrade into a paid version that will give them more access to how do they present their RV park on our site, but also to give them some access to some property management tools, some really cool 3D modeling tools that they can use to showcase their park. And for them, we're going to have a boots on the ground sales team. Call outreach, of course, and marketing is going to be a piece of that as well. And then we also have partnerships. So when it comes to building those partnerships, again, marketing, call outreach, and a boots on the ground sales team for that as well. Now, revenue models. How are we going to make that money? Now that we know how we're going to get our customers, how are we going to make the money? Well, on the traveler side, we're going to offer 3 different subscription services. They can do monthly, yearly, or do a 3-year subscription. And you'll notice that our pricing was right in the middle of our 2 competitors. On the RV park side, again, think apartments.com. They are going to have a free listing, but they can upgrade into different tiers, which gives them access to more tools. So we have our gold, our platinum, and our diamond tiers for that. And then for partnerships, we're looking at building partnerships with management and reservation companies that are already out there, like CampSpot. We want to go to CampSpot and say, hey, CampSpot, for all of your parks to be listed with us, you can advertise that, hey, your park is now, if you use CampSpot's property management, your park is now listed also in the #1 travel app of RV2EZ. And then we also want to add a marketplace where if people are out traveling, like an RV mechanic who travels, he can advertise in whatever location that he's in, that they're there and available. So anyone who wants to advertise specifically to that RV group will have the opportunity to do so. We also have plans for the future. So we have already started discussions with some RV manufacturers and some other membership services where we're really looking to get those manufacturers to design RVs with the RV2EZ software in there. And then anyone who purchases an RV from that company will get, like 3 months free and stuff like that goes along with their purchase. Also looking at companies like Harvest Hosts so that we can get all of their properties as well listed into RV2EZ. And then last, data sales. So we've already heard that the OEM manufacturers are really interested in trip data and how users are now using their RVs. How often are they traveling in them? so that they can start to make changes in how they build and develop their RVs. So we've already started having discussions with them about being able to sell our trip data to them for that. And then we would like to take this even further and break ground in real estate and build and develop our very own RV parks. And we want to think three things: the future of work. We want to make sure there's an infrastructure there for anyone who's working out of their RV so that they have great Wi-Fi and can work from their RVs. The future of travel, when we think about electric RVs that will eventually come up, we want to make sure they can charge them in our RV parks. And the future of home, so many families are traveling, and so we want to make sure that there are some creature comforts there, where there's space for the kids to learn about the nature that's around them. There's so many things that can go into there. We've only just started thinking about that, and so that's very far in the future with RV2EZ. So our plan is to launch with the traveler side, then launch with the RV park side. Once we have both of them up and running, then we'll start looking into building into that real estate space. So what do we need to take flight? So we're raising 1.5 million in pre-seed funding, and that's going to give us a 15-month runway. Now, what I mean by 15-month runway is we're going to be earning revenue at this point. And around that time is where we're going to have to make the decision. Are we going to continue to really push and grow? If so, we may need to go back for additional funding. But if not, if we decide to move a little bit slower, then that 15-month runway is going to go a little bit further. And you can see here, we're going to split that up into 40% into product development, because that's really what the first couple of years is going to be all about, marketing, and then, of course, payroll. Now, we based all of our projections and our financial model in Forecaster on our marketing research that we did through Google and Facebook. And the results that we got is our customer acquisition cost is about $2.66. We had an amazing 7.5% conversion rate from people who went and visited our website and said, yes, I'd sign up today. And our cost per click off of social media marketing was about 20 cents per click. So our founding team, I've already talked about me and Carla and Amy, and we have so many years of experience between sales, operations, leadership, business ownership to bring together into RV2EZ. But that's not all. We have more. We actually have two amazing advisors already on our advisory board. Andy Austin is our tech advisor. He runs a company called We Are the Industrious. We actually found him because we were talking to him about his company potentially building our app. And then we have Scott Jones, who is our advisor on finances. And I tell you what, we would not have been able to do our financial model without him. And so grateful to have him already on our team to help us make some of those money decisions. So with that, let's disrupt the RV industry. We're ready. Are you?
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So cool. So I love to start these things with things that I like. So I've been in this industry for a while, and sometimes you don't get the feedback of what you like, but you get the no, and that's about it. So I really liked your energy. I think that's a really important thing to carry. I really like that you started with the background and why you wanted to build this thing, like what problem you experienced. I think that really helps tie in the whole presentation to like that experience that you had. And I recommend that to anybody who's out there. Really ground yourself in, in the background at the very beginning. I think all the major components are in here. I think when we go into the next phase is what areas of opportunity. I'll help you reorganize this thing so it actually tells a bit better story. And then we'll also be able to cut out some of the stuff that's, I would say, maybe distracting from what you're trying to get to today. And so I think we should move into that.
Sure.
So because it's just us, I'd love to just kind of go through this slide by slide, and then and I can take the control. We just learned this earlier. So I'm gonna do that for you guys here. So like I said, I actually do love the beginning here, your guys' background. I think why now is a really interesting slide. This slide conceptually confuses a lot of people. Um, and I think we can put this someplace else just because I want to get in. What I like to see is when people get to the problem statement quicker, right? So I had this experience. Here's the problem in the market right now. And because what happens is I'm listening for that. And most investors are conditioned right now to hear the problem. They resonate with your story and they want to know, like, okay, so I tried to do this, and here's the 5 things that I learned when it came to um, trying to do this myself, right? And what you kind of have here, and so I think getting to this right away is really, really important.
Okay.
Okay, so next thing is this font is a little bit small. I do love how you bolded this, or it's just coming across that way, and on my screen, I'm not entirely sure.
It is bolded.
Okay, cool. So what I would do here is make this bigger. So we recommend, there's 2 rules of thumb. One is nothing smaller than 22 size font. And then the other rule is think about who the oldest person in the room is, divide their age by 2, and that should be the smallest font. So if they're 70, it would be 35. And you don't really need to do that, but bigger is better is really what I'm getting at.
I would have to move a lot of stuff around, but
Yeah.
we'll make,
Well, yeah. So I would make this bigger. You have a lot of real estate here. You've got this huge road thing, and I get it makes sense to what you're doing, but I want to feel each of these problems, right? So if you can demonstrate, like for example, it's like it really is hard to find the safest route, and you show like this is what was recommended just by using Google, but these areas are bad, right? Visually showing me the problem is much better than just the words themselves. Database is true. So I had an RV for a while. It's really not an easy system to navigate. And you're like calling a million different places and they're all booked, especially in the summer. And then like you mentioned, the whole BLM and all that stuff, like unless somebody knows and tells you about it, you're probably not finding it.
exactly.
So yeah, so this is a real thing. I think, again, visually showing that story of that problem is really key. And same thing with this safe one. Yeah, I would add visuals to this is really what I'm going with. Okay. So the next slide here is going to be your solution, right? I'm assuming we talked about animations earlier. I'm assuming this is probably an animation slide. No, it's not.
No.
Okay. So then what I would do is break out, if we go back to your problem slide, I would break out each element that you mentioned in your problem, and I would have that solution front and center on this slide. So if we talk about the first one, which is safe routes, so then you say like our thing, when you put in from destination to destination, here is the safest route you can possibly take. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then you say that same thing here, like, remember, you mentioned those 5 spots. Well, next slide would be here. Now you've got these like your distances, or you can do 2 things here. One is show me how the app works. So you go destination to destination, or whatever, location to destination. You say your distance, and then you just hit go. And then the next one is here's the safest route. You can show me that. Next is now you're going to stop here, look at all the camping sites that are right around that area. And then the third one is this safe GPS, which might be related to the same one.
It is related.
Yeah. So you could do that. Keep it there. Okay. So now what I like to see right here is the revenue model. So we're talking today, what the app does is selling it to the RV owner, right? I understand there's a million different business models later, but like keeping it really simple and focus on the RV user is going to be very helpful in keeping this very streamlined conversation, right? So our job today, we're building the best RV app for RV drivers, right? That's it. So what that means is if we right here, I want to see the revenue model really mostly for this part right here.
Just the travelers, or do you want us to keep the RV parks and the partners there as
just the travelers? Is this built yet? Like what is built?
So, we just have a prototype for the traveler side built currently right now. We have a prototype for the RV parks limited, and we're expanding that right now.
You mean prototype is as in like actually coded or like just a wireframe?
Just wireframe.
Okay. So then what I would focus on really is just this part right here, because this is what you're going to go to market with, right?
We're going to go to market launch with the travelers, and the RV parks will be within 2 to 3 months after it.
Okay. Yeah. So what I would focus the whole pitch on this part, and I'll tell you where to bring this part in a second once we get to there. So, and that'll help you it'll help you stay really hyper focused on just these people. So we're going to say it's $7 a month, 45, and then you've got all these different subscription models, right?
Yep.
Okay. So right now, next is the forecast itself, right? We don't have that. So what I want to see that like potential growth model of what that looks like. So,
do you have some advice on how to put that on a slide? Because we've had that on a slide and been told to remove it by several people. So I don't know if we just didn't have it look pretty enough or.
Yeah. So what I would do is a stacked bar chart. You have 3 revenue models here. So you have 7, 45, 120. And then you would show, because this is pre-revenue. So I would only do about 3 years. So you're like, so from when we launch to the next 3 years, this is what this could look like. And so you're going to say, and think about these as like kind of categories, right? So you're going to have 10, 2, 1. And then the next year is going to be 534. You know what I'm saying? So, and if you put a table underneath that stacked bar chart that references the number that's associated with these, then it gives me a really clean map of like, okay, because if you said you're going to go from like 0 to 50,000 in year 1, I'm like, well, I don't know if that's true, right? So you're just kind of showing me what you're thinking over the next 3 years.
Okay.
What you could do is you could introduce this part in the forecast as well. And you're like, so we're going to launch here, beta test this for a year, then bring in this tiered system at year 1. And then you can show the graph and do the same thing and show how that comes in a little bit later.
Okay.
I still think it would I think this makes sense from a business model point of view. But there's a lot happening so far. And I'll show you why I say it that way. But I think that'll be really helpful, is keeping it really simple today.
Okay.
And it'll help you guys focus as well. Okay. So let me go back here. Okay. So this is the competition. All right. So after we get to the financials, right? So I say, if you're in numbers, stay with numbers. So we talked about how you're going to make money. We're going to add that forecast in here and keep it really clean and simple. And then we're going to talk about the market size as a whole. So that's why I really do like this part of this now. So you're like, there's 46 million RV trips. These are all the people, and then you can break that number out. Like, you don't need this anymore because we've already discussed that. You can add this back into it. 1 million people live in RVs, but now you're getting me back into the numbers. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So staying in the numbers, now we can just multiply. So we can say, look, if we got the entire market, every single one of these people times $7 a month, this is the revenue that we could be generating. So that's your total addressable market. That's the highest level you can get.
Okay.
So that's very simple bottom up approach. And it makes sense because you can back, you've already walked me through the numbers 7, right? And then your financials, right? We've just talked about, like, I can see in year 3, you're like, oh, that does make sense. Your numbers make sense. So that's how those 3 slides kind of go together.
Okay.
All right. So the next one is a milestone slide, or attractions, or competition. So now you're saying, like, look, the market's huge. We could make up to this much money. And I do love this right here. I would caution you on these right here. So
you're saying these right here, but we're not seeing what you're doing because
sorry, I got my cursor on here.
That's okay.
So I would caution you on their revenue numbers.
Okay.
Because these might be true, but if that's true, then it's really a $5 million market, or maybe 10 combined.
Sure.
So what it says is there's just not a big enough market here. And I don't believe that's true if the model's different, right?
It's just they're not solving the problems that people are looking for. So people join and then leave.
Right. Yeah. So what I would address here is I would go back to the problem statements that you have. So let's go here. And then I would bring those back. You have them here, and then show you versus these other competitors, and all the other ones too. I know there's quite a few other ones out there. But these are the 2 biggest. And so you're like, there's 3 separate apps, right? We're one app, like for GPS. So again, I would bring back your solutions and then show you, like, I call it an I love me slide. It's like, this is how we're amazing. And look, these guys are missing these things. Okay. So from here, so now we're kind of talked about the market as a whole. Now I want to get into why you guys, right? So why this company? And so this is where we need to start seeing traction. And the only element of traction you guys have really is this that was mentioned is this right here. And this is not a bad thing. It just is an is thing. So I would pull this slide out all on its own. And I would talk about, like, so we've done market testing. This is our customer acquisition cost, blah, 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 blah. And then I would also talk about what's been created so far. So you're like, we have wireframes. And I'm going to caution on that one, though. I want to see something built. So as an investor, right? Unless, like, I know a lot more about the industry as a whole, than coming early with a prototype, like you guys have, like a wireframe, then I'm like, oh man, I wish I had this, right? So that's the difference between having something built and kind of having more the idea phase. If you can find the right investor that knows this pain, then they're like, yeah, I wish this existed. So just keep that in mind. But you do need traction. Traction is really, really important, regardless of what the rest of the slides. Because what's happening is I'm waiting for this slide. Like, you've told me all this really cool stuff, and like I'm waiting for, like, we are amazing. Look what we've done already. So that's that traction slide. And then the milestone.
I have a question on that. When we talk about traction, if you go to our very last slide, we talk about our milestones and our future mileage. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Or do you want us to somehow show our prototype active on here? Because we're pre-revenue. I mean, it's not built yet. I mean, we need the money to build it. So we don't have a whole lot of traction other than the marketing research we've done and the emails that we've been gathering from people who will want to sign up for early access.
Yeah. So I would just stick with those pre-marketing numbers as the traction. So look, we've run experiments, we've run some tests. Here's that preliminary data that we're going to get. And you can even say, we know these numbers are going to go up, but this is why we decided to move forward with this product, right?
Yep.
Now, the next slide is going to be the next milestones, right? So from today, moving forward, what are the things that you plan to accomplish in the next 15 months? And I think that's what this part is, right?
That's the future mileage.
Okay.
on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I would,
We'll
it
probably
looks,
remove real estate and global expansion off of that if we're just looking at the next 15 months.
yeah. Yeah. So
But
focus.
everything else.
So split these two. So make this your traction, because that's actually what that looks like. Started the company in 2021. You know, you don't need this created logo and branding. You can do an incubator program and throw the logo on there. That can be good and it can be ungood too. It just depends on how it's said. Um, and I say that because, like, what did the accelerator bring to you, or the incubator program? What did it bring to the company? If they brought money, if they brought connections, like, just be aware of the questions that might come up.
They brought us a prototype and helped us with our marketing research. So which we need help with. So those are the main things that group helped us with.
Sweet. So I would say that that's a very good use case of the incubator itself.
Okay.
So like they kind of brought you to market. Now you're ready to, you may need to make some tweaks to the product, but you're in a good space. Okay. So yeah, so I'd split these two up. Again, fonts bigger. And then I would put this kind of more on a timeline. I mean, both of them can go on timelines, but like, so, you know, within the first 3 months, this is what we're going to do. Within the next 6, you know, that kind of thing.
Yep.
All right. Once you finish with these milestones, I think it's really good to go into the team itself. So the questions that gets asked is like, cool, you guys have done some cool things. I understand where you're trying to go. Who's making this happen? And so I do like this slide. One thing, again, make these the letters and numbers bigger. I would bring in logos for you guys. So I understand why you would put this kind of stuff here, but I think it's better when you're like, I worked at Toyota, or whatever those logos that just add credibility to who you are as people. These things are great, really more on a website, but not give it's you're trying to say like, this is a team worth betting on. Look at our backgrounds. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So same thing with your advisor slide. I would cut out all of the text around them. I would put their, are these investors, or are they just kind of volunteering?
So they are advisors with a very teeny tiny piece of equity, and they're on calls with us weekly. They are very engaged and very into everything.
So what I would do is, so take these guys and just kind of put them down here. So you don't need a whole separate slide with them, because as you add in advisors, especially if they're equity advisors, they can just go here, and you really don't even need to talk about them, other than what you can say is, you know, I'm Michelle, 20 years in sales experience. We got Carla, 20 years of sales experience. Like, you can say that high level, and you just can say, look, we've got an advisor who's covering finance, and we've got an advisor who's covering tech, and we're looking for a marketing person, or whatever you can say what you're missing at this stage.
Sure.
Because that's really what you're funding, right? That's what the money's for. So like with money, you know, so there you go. That's how I would do that.
Okay.
And then, okay, so from here, then I would go into, okay, so you have this future slide. At this point, you have 2 choices. You can kind of wrap it up, or you can do the kind of the future, what's coming next after the next 15 months. Okay. I think it would be advisable to say what is coming up next. And I would say, I would cut this part out, this real estate part, because it starts to sound a little bit oceany. Like you're just trying to boil the ocean. Like you haven't even nailed the first part yet. And we're already talking about 100 years from now. So what I want to see is a hyper focus. Like we're going to kill it for these travelers. After we start to dial that in, then we're going to be bringing on, and this is where this comes in. We're going to be bringing in the kind of like a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a mind body-ish type application for the RV parks, which is going to benefit our travelers, right? So you can, and then these OEMs and whatever this start as well. So you're like, there's 3 areas we think we're going to grow into after we nail this first part. And that is, the data side for OEM, whatever.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, cool. And then the final slide is always the ask slide. And so I would remind everybody what it is that you do. So it's been about 10 minutes. And so we're forgetful. So put the logo here, it's over here on the right. It's fine. Remind everybody what you're doing, that you've done 15, or that you're trying to raise 1.5 million. And then give me some of those details. Give me the details of the terms of the ask. You can break out what the use of funds are, like this, and then you want to add those milestones that you're going to do. Because this is really that full summary of the whole pitch, and then you're going to want to add your contact information on this slide as well.
Okay.
So that's the whole thing from beginning to end. That's a lot of information, but it's on a video, so watch it as many times as you need.
Well, Carla and Amy were furiously taking notes.
I saw, killing it. Any questions on any of that before I get to the final question, which is based off of what I heard today? What do we move to due diligence? Any questions?
I don't have any. I was asking them along the way. So Carla, Amy, do you have any questions? Nope.
Okay. No.
Okay, cool. All right. So based off of what I heard today, would I move this company on to due diligence? And the answer right now is not yet. Like I said before, I want to see the product to be built for me, even though I understand the pain that's happening. I want to see more of this traction element from users themselves. And then because there was this high level boil the ocean, it just felt a little bit like disjointed for me. But I would follow this because I'm very interested in this space. And I think RV travel is definitely going to be around for a while. And it's a young kids game right now.
Yes.
And so I think if you can nail that experience, which I need to see and feel, then I think that you're onto something, but it's just really early to tell.
Yeah. So I have a question for you. So how do you go about getting something developed for people to use without money?
Yeah. So good question. So there's lots of tools now where you don't need full development to do it. So like my website is built off of a tool called bubble.io.
Yeah. So our past incubator used Bubble, and they were not able to do any of the trip planning the way we need it to be to make sure that it's route safe. That does have to be coded.
Right.
And that's an expensive piece of code to get done and developed. So what advice do you have in that space?
That's the question. So I mean, fund it, credit cards, it's really like that's the thing to like figure out, or is it really that necessary? I don't know the answer to that question. But I think you're right. It probably is necessary. But if you're going to find the investor who is big into traveling like this, those are the right people to start having conversations, right? So as you're reaching out and doing any kind of like cold outreach, like, do you travel in RVs? And only talk to those people who do. I mean, right. RVs are not cheap. So the whole system is people think it's a poor person's game, and it's not. Like, it gets real expensive real quick. So I would look into like, alternative angel investors, and maybe not institutional angel investors, like physicians, engineers, people who have expendable money, who want a better experience for themselves. And then also want that, like, I invested in the coolest app, like, check it out. Like, they're become your advocates as well. I heard this story of a company called High West. Do you guys know what that is? They're a distillery in Park City. And the founder was telling us one time, he's like, I turned all of my investors into our marketing team. Like I gave them all personalized business cards. And he's like, and if they were ever in a bar and they didn't see a bottle of ours, to be like, hey, look, you need to buy this company. And I think that's the type of investor you're looking for.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, sweet. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. I loved having you guys on here and for sharing this. If anyone out there is looking for help with their decks, please apply for Pitch Us. It's free. We love doing this. And if not, just check out the book. It's like $30. It's super cheap. It's called the Pitch Deck book. And we'll see you all next time.
All right. Thank you so
Thanks,
much for your
Tim.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Tim.
Hang out for a bit.